Welcome back. You're watching The World on Bernama TV. In today's global landscape, effective facilitation stands as a cornerstone for fostering collaboration and achieving shared goals. As Malaysia prepares to lead ASEAN in 2025, understanding the true essence of facilitation is paramount. Today, I explore the nuances of facilitation, its importance within ASEAN, and how Malaysia's chairmanship can leverage facilitation to navigate diverse interests and drive collective progress. Of course, we also want to learn what facilitation is, so the rest of us use the word correctly here in Malaysia. Joining me from the Federal Capital is Kathleen Marie Fernandez, the President of the Malaysian Association of Facilitators. Kathleen, thank you so much for doing this. I'd like to begin with this. What is your understanding of facilitation, particularly in the context of its loose usage here in Malaysia, especially when we use the word as trainers? A lot of us who are doing training say, "I'm a facilitator." So you know where we'd like to start with this conversation. Kathleen?
Thanks, Gerard. Well, let me set the context of what facilitation is before we talk about what facilitation is not. So facilitation, similar to work like organization development or human process work, is a method where we focus on the process of the conversation, meaning as facilitators, we're looking at working with not only what is being said, but the unsaid, the group dynamics, the interpersonal dynamics, and the patterns that the group falls into during the discussions. And some of these things could be either enabling or disabling the group to really reach their decision making. So as facilitators, we're really helping to even out the playing field for participation and ensuring that the wisdom of the group is brought up. And that's where the fairness, the collaborative conversations really bring the group to their collective outcomes. So that's facilitation. And what facilitation is not, like you rightly said there, Gerard, that facilitation, unlike training or professional speaking, is not about being a content expert where I have all of the knowledge and the skills and I'm about to give you, a whole spiel of what we're supposed to do. Rather, facilitation is being a process expert where we're working with participants as the content and context experts, and we're therefore designing the process to have more robust conversations. So that, I hope, gives us a bit of an understanding of what facilitation is.
Yeah. Now, how do you perceive the common misunderstandings or misuses of the term facilitation? And what I think more importantly is, what are the consequences of such misunderstandings?
Yeah, I think one of the common misunderstandings stem from our perception that we're equating it to a leadership role or leadership activity, meaning the leader is the one who needs to facilitate the group and make sure we're having the best conversation. I think that's one common misunderstanding. I think we also assume that it is a very passive role just because I am saying we're neutral or unbiased. I think there's a misunderstanding that it is then passive. Another understanding is that it is mere meeting management, that I'm just, creating a better meeting. So I think those are the ways we are misinformed. And I think the consequence of that.
Yeah, please carry on, please continue.
Yeah, so I think the consequence of that is that we're losing out on people who are skilled in navigating these group dynamics, and they're being unbiased, they're being neutral to the conversation at hand. And they're really, the focus of these facilitators are getting the group to reach its goal, right? I think another thing that we're missing out is having equitable conversations. In a lot of our discussions, we tend to have dominant voices or dominant agendas that tend to take front and center stage. And we tend to sideline some of these marginalized voices. And so having facilitators really help to even out the playing field.
Additionally, I don't know if we have an answer for this, but who should be responsible for defining facilitation accurately, whether it's globally or regionally or even nationally?
Right. And I think to answer that, I have to give a bit of a context as well as to why it's so important for us to define this well. We are no longer in the era of command and control. I say you do, learn some skills and you'll solve the problem. Globally, I think we are all trying to solve more complex and dynamic challenges, from things such as drafting more inclusive policies, addressing wage disparity, or creating more equitable workplaces. So I think these are solutions that need to have more people with the different perspectives, the different needs coming into the conversation and having, but kind of creating these solutions that are not just immediate, but also going to be future-proof in a way. So I think it is a shared responsibility. It is the role of institutions. It's the role of organizations to be defining this clearly. I know internationally we have bodies like NTL Institute, Indian Society for Applied Behavioral Science, the International Association of Facilitators, and several other independent organizations and bodies really trying to spread this message across. Locally, the Malaysian Association of Facilitators, we are working towards increasing the awareness of facilitation. For example, in our upcoming facilitation conference, instead of just inviting facilitators and coaches and trainers, which we've previously done, we're opening the doors up for leaders of organizations, government agencies, NGOs, and HR partners to really understand what facilitation is and how it's a future-proof capability.
Right. So we've got about three to 4 minutes left, and I'd like to really pick your brain with these next two questions. Now, how effective will the understanding of facilitation be for the success of ASEAN during Malaysia's upcoming chairmanship in 2025? And of course, YB Fahmi or Fahmi is talking about this all the time as to how we can be an aggregator of information, move forward, have conversations, dialogues. So, I mean, when you look at it, what are your thoughts on this?
I think, taking over the role. Yeah, taking over the role of the ASEAN Chairmanship is really pivotal because we're steering the direction and facilitating the collective decision-making process. I would equate, the ASEAN Chairmanship essentially to the broader role of a facilitator. And in that, I think we need to start looking at balancing the objectives of the group, the relationships within the member nations, and the process of the conversation. And I think there's two ways we can go about it. One is understanding that maybe a facilitative approach, which is I am using the skills, the techniques of a facilitator, which is active listening, more collaborative discussion techniques. I am, ensuring that there is a space for all of the voices to be heard. And I'm also, being aware of the group dynamics. So that's one where no matter who I am, can take a facilitative approach. On the other hand, I think it's also learning to say that, I might not have the expertise within the institution. I need to tap into external resources to use facilitation as a methodology, because I think it's also difficult when you're in the seat to hold a neutral position to talk about the actual issues that ASEAN has to work towards.
Right. We've got a couple of minutes left. I'd really like to segue into this. MAFa or your organization is having a conference in Kuala Lumpur very, very soon. Tell us a little bit about this, and if you can pull up the poster at this time, that would be great too. Just give us a bit of an insight as to what this is and how stakeholders from the public sector and private sector can come and be a part of this and learn something from this before we move into becoming the ASEAN Chair in 2025.
Great. I think, the facilitation conference this year, it's happening in May, and our theme that we're looking at is empowering teams navigating change together. And so the conversations that we're having are, how do you create a culture of accountability, moving from strategy to action? How do we increase our change resilience, as well as panel sessions on facilitative leadership? And so I'm really hoping that the public, as they enter in, really sees this not just as something for an expert to do, and that while that is important, that I also have a role to play within my organization to have a more facilitative approach, a more equal, collaborative approach in my leadership.
Right. Kathleen, thank you so much for doing this for us. We do hope to have a longer conversation with you at some point when we have you in here in the studios. That was Kathleen Marie Fernandez, the president of the Malaysian Association of Facilitators. We're taking a short break. When we come back, more stories for you. We'll take you around the globe. This is Bernama World on Bernama TV. I'm Gerard Ratnam.